All right, welcome everyone. This is going to be a little bit different of a video. I'm joined here with my good friend Carman. If you guys don't know who he is a really well-known Weiss Schwarz player. I knew him for a long time, ever since his birth at New York, Rochester, when he became the North American representative. Was that 2018? I think it was, or was it
2018, 2019, or around then. I believe it was 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the North American player for North America, basically for the Japanese side of Weiss Schwarz. And ever since then, we've met each other, been hanging out since then. Amazing card game player. You've played other card games before, is that right? I assume.
Yeah, I got my start with Hearthstone back in college. Like I played for Tespa with a couple of my friends. That was really fun. And then got into Weiss. Also played the other online card games. Played a bit of Pokemon too. Attended like Pittsburgh regionals. Play the online thing. A little bit of Master Duel, but not much. So I'm kind of spread all over the place, but still mostly Weiss.
Yeah, I feel like most card game players kind of have that history where they're all over the place till they, end up in a game that they truly love and stuff. But yeah, so what are we doing here today? We are doing a thing where Carman here, who's had very little experience with Shadowverse Evolve in general, you've played a little bit during set one, like on the side just for fun. Like,
it
was like a
release stuff.
Yeah, it was like a starter deck sword thing, and then that was like basically it, right?
Yeah, that's about it.
All right, so what I'll be doing here is going to be feeding him some cards. I have 16 cards today for him to evaluate. He's going to, without having any real context, he's going to look at the card, read it, go through his thought process on like what he thinks about the card, and then he's going to kind of rate it, whether it's a meta card, a stinker, or whatever he wants to go with that. And then I'll let him know if he was right or wrong, and then we'll see how good he evaluates cards.
All right.
Being a Weiss Schwarz champion, I hope you get there. Well, I mean, you played Hearthstone, so you have some idea of and you played a little bit, so we won't have to get too much into it. So we'll go ahead and start to the first card here.
All right, let's go.
All right, dropping the first card here for you.
Okay, Gunner made Seria. Search your deck for a Princess Follower, reveal it, add it to your hand. It costs 2. It's a 1/3. Okay, so Tutor's really good. Ripping a card out of your deck, really good early, especially selective. Or when you evolve, right? That's what this says.
No, so the F stands for fanfare, which is like when it enters the battlefield.
Couldn't see. Okay, so fanfare. Battle cry, search for a Princess Follower. I assume Princess is there's like quite a few cards with Princess.
There's a handful. There's a handful of cards for Princess. There are definitely some key ones, even from set one, which maybe you remember or not. But
very, very little. I think I remember one, and I remember it being pretty good. Yeah, I'm gonna go and say that this was pretty good when it was released. A card for sword that like cantrips selectively for something from your deck. Sounds pretty good to me.
All right, yeah, you're right. Obviously on the money. I was pretty sure you're going to get this one. I'm started off a little easy with some of these cards.
Yeah, I figured this one was.
And I guess also to be very clear, with these, when we're talking about these cards, we're going to be talking in the context of the set 2 release, because these are all cards from set 2. Reign of Bahamut, I believe, was the name of the card. So yeah, you got this one, which is awesome. All right, we're going to move on to some other fun things here. Let's go with this.
Okay. Pull this up big here. Okay, Vania, Vampire Princess. Fanfare, give this follower +X, where X is equal to the number of forest bat token. And then, is this an activated ability? Is that what this means here?
Yes.
Okay, so... And you can do these once per turn or infinite amount of times per turn?
As long as you can pay the cost. In this case, the cost is 1 play point. So yeah.
1 play point. Okay. So you can pay 1 to put a forest bat token on your field.
Oh no, so the first part... okay. Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, you're correct. Go ahead and read it.
And then, selected enemy follower on the field, deal 3 damage to it, and deal 1 damage to its leader. Okay, so you pay 1, sack a forest bat to Deal 3 to a creature on their field and then 1 to face.
Yeah, and for context, Forest Spat is a 1/1 token that gets generated off of other Abyss cards generally.
This seems like a lot of potential value, provided that you can get a bunch of Forest Bats out. Because it only costs 2, and then you can, for however much you have, potentially deal a lot of damage to board, remove something that's threatening you, as well as deal some bonus damage to face and be a big body. I'm gonna go with that. This seems pretty good, provided that there's a lot of Forest Bat generation.
Yeah, I guess that would kind of be important. So you're thinking this was like kind of a meta card, or you think it's good?
I'll go with good. Yeah. I'd say it's probably pretty good.
Okay. Unfortunately,
not a lot of Forest Bats.
Not a lot of good. There was like no engine for this card. It was introduced in this set, and in the future, this card is going to be insane. We already know that from one of the most recent JP tournaments in the way later on. But this class in general struggles with this early on right now, is struggling with identity crisis, because originally it was 2 crafts combined into 1, right?
Yeah.
So
I knew
like,
that,
yeah, they never really printed enough into one like archetype. So like it takes a while before we finally get there, and Abyss kind of finds its home. This card actually does become insane, but during this meta, it was basically trash. Like almost no one played it unless it was like a for fun deck.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, makes sense. There's no bats. The card's bad.
Generally, yes. All right. Drop this spicy card here for you.
All right. This card can't be destroyed by abilities. At the start of your end phase, put a prayer counter on this card. And if this card has at least 4 prayer counters, put it on its owner's cemetery. Give your leader plus 10. And I assume in this game you can go over your starting health point, right? Just like up and up and up. Okay. Yeah. And then search your deck for up to 2 cards, put them into your EX area. These cards cost 0 play points to play. Okay, and this is an Amulet. It's 6 Haven. At the start, okay. This card seems really, really slow. However, even from back in set 1 and release, I know that like Haven can be really, really slow and can try to like get away with stuff like this, but this seems way too heavy. It can't be touched like turn 6 to put this down, and then you have to have 4 counters. You can only, I assume the only way to get a prayer counter is at the end of your end phase.
Right now, yeah, that's the only way during this time. The only way you can get these counters.
Yeah. Even getting the 2 cards, like that's on turn 10, unless you have a way to reliably make it to turn 10, I'm gonna hazard and say this is bad.
Okay, I don't know if this changes your opinion, but it actually if you play it on 6, it actually activates on 9, because you get a token the same turn you play it, right?
You get a oh, okay. The starting your end phase, you get it on turn 9.
Does that change your opinion at all, or
how do you make it to turn 9? Maybe I don't know how long these games can really go. You do heal 10, you stabilize back in, you play any 2 cards to your EX area, and then you can play them for free. Oh. You know what? I'll say it's bad. This seems way too slow in a game with stuff like Sword, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Haven has enough to live to the end.
All right. Well, my friend, you're kind of right actually on this one. The card saw play, but it wasn't like a required staple in the deck. It's obviously very powerful, as like you can kind of tell. Like if you're able to get there, and pop off, and then you get to pull out some big boss monsters and just play them for free immediately, or like things to protect your board. It was really annoying, and that heal 10 is insane.
Yeah, heal 10 seems wild. Yeah,
yeah, it's like you get to like take away 2 damage worth of turn. 2 turns worth of damage. That's what I was trying to go for. Essentially from healing 10, which is insane. So a lot of times the decks that did play it, which obviously only Haven crafted, and they were playing like a more of a control deck, if they got this on the board and you didn't punish them for playing this on the board, and then 4 turns you usually lost the game, or you were in a position that there was no way for you to come back, essentially.
Okay.
But I would personally say the card was kind of bad, even though it did see play. Some people like really try to make this work, but I think you're kind of like you hit it on the money. Basically, like the card's too slow, and even if you play this on turn 6, you're basically blanking an entire turn of doing nothing. Right,
yeah,
which is the scary part in some of these games. Because I'm sure, like in Hearthstone, you just spend a turn, do nothing. You've probably lost.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, spend a turn to do nothing, and I just immediately lose. And I was like, oh, okay. Shadowverse, I know is pretty fast. That's really slow.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Let's find something else here. Little this. Give you this little wolf guy here. See how you do on this one.
All right, White Wolf of Eldwood, 7 mana Forestcraft Storm. Okay, and that's charge.
Oh no, Storm. Oh wait, yeah, is it charge? Is it? Yeah,
you can hit face with Storm, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and then what is the L? What is that?
Oh, that's a last word, so it's like a death rattle.
Oh, death rattle. Okay, look it up to the top 4 cards of your deck. You may put a Forestcraft warrior from among them onto your field. The remaining cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. So the only requirement is that it's a Forestcraft, and this card can just 7 mana hit something, die, possibly float into like something really big, but more often than not. But you can choose any of them, so you can dig 4. But this card's heavy, the other card's heavy. I don't know. This seems unless there's some sort of really nutty target that like ends the game the next turn, I think this is like a Timmy card. This seems a little bad. Pretty low stats, a lot of cost.
All right, but let me paint this picture for you though. Before you lock in your answer, you run this in and you reveal another white wolf off the top into another one.
You can just keep going.
Yeah,
how many?
It's three in a deck.
Okay. And you have open combat phase, right?
Yeah. In the it's just like Hearthstone. You can go back and forth whether you want to deal combat damage or you want to play cards.
Okay, this card being able to chain into itself, I didn't even consider that. That is a thing it could do. You could just randomly win the game out of nowhere. But then that's 4 slots in your deck.
You just gotta be the most lucky.
I'm gonna go with no, man. It costs too much, I think. Even for something like this, maybe. But I'll stick with my guns. I'll say no.
All right. Well, your guns were correct. This card, basically, it basically doesn't ever see play. Like, I'm sure there's some local legend out there who popped off with this card at some point.
Dealt 16 damage.
Did some silly stuff with it, or like, got something huge off of it. But generally, it's too weak. Like, Storm is such a powerful keyword, as you know, in like Hearthstone as well. Like that keyword is already very strong. The secondary effect sounds decently okay. Like, you go into a random follower, you don't know what it is, but at least you get to see about 4 cards. You get to see 4 cards, right? So you should hopefully hit something at least decent. The big thing is, like you said, it's a 7-drop that's 4/4 that really doesn't ever really clear anything. 4 damage is not usually enough to really close out games. You're never looking to just deal 4 storm damage to win the game. And then another thing too, it doesn't come up too often, but against certain crafts like Haven Craft, like the Death Rattle doesn't trigger sometimes because they can just banish it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's a minor thing. Yeah, that's a minor thing, but yeah. So like maybe there's some silly combo out there. Someone played with it, but the card was essentially like never played, and it still hasn't seen play. Like maybe there's a list out there that I'm not aware of, but as far as I'm aware, it's never seen play.
All right.
Here we go. Let's give you a neutral card here.
All right. So
you're gonna need
craft can play this.
Yes, any craft can play this. I'm gonna have to send you both because there is an Evo.
Oh, okay. All right. So here's the Evo. All right. So this one is you pay 1, an Evo point, right? So you have to pay an additional 1 and an Evo point.
Oh no. So it's the E just stands for Evo, and then the cost is right there. So you can use either 1 Evo point as like 1 play point towards
Okay.
Evoing, or you can use a play point.
Okay, I'm remembering now. Then it has ward. It's taunt. It's 4/5. Goes to a 5/6. On evolve, recover X play points. X is equal to number of face up followers in your evolve deck. And this is from turn 4. Turn them face down. So when they're face down,
you can evolve into them again. Because if you remember how when you Evo, you take it out of your deck and then it basically gets banished. But this replaces them back and you get play points based on the number you turn face down.
Okay. So you had to have done a lot of evolving before. I don't have a lot of context for how much this would heal, but it is a 5/6 ward. Oh, it's play points. It's play points, not healing.
Yeah. Okay. So if you flip 4 over, you get 4 play points back.
Okay. In a control deck, like maybe this lets you like stabilize and extend your lines. Maybe I have there's like cards like this than like Hearthstone, or like cards that like there's cards in Hearthstone that can like play for health but like are taunts. This is like spending Evo, like you get things back. In the right deck, I could see this being good. We'll go with like it in the context of like some sort of control deck, or like something that could like ramp like Evos a lot. You know what? I'll go with like good, like for a control deck. The fact that it's a fat ward on top of giving you resources back to let you do something else, that seems like it would be decent in a control deck.
All right, so you're locking in. It's a good card.
Yeah. We'll say good card.
Okay. Unfortunately, during this time,
All
this
right,
card basically saw almost no play. I think there was someone who made a top 8. I don't know if they got any higher than that with this card in a dragon deck.
Okay.
And
that's ramp, right? That like ramps up. Yeah. Okay.
And then myself and Skaz, who's been on this channel as well, we developed a deck with this card in Havencraft that's like hard control, which we really liked. But it suffered a lot of issues with like you have to play this. This takes a slot in your Evo deck. Evo decks can only be 10 cards, and you're forced to like kind of like what you were alluding to earlier. You have to Evo a lot early on to get a good payoff for this card, right? Yeah. So like there are some cool turn patterns with this card where you can play this and a big follower after it, and then protect that follower and yourself with this card. But it was just too slow to ever really do anything.
Way too slow. Okay.
Yeah, which was the issue. Like you read the card, it sounds like a really great payoff, but then when you actually play the game, you realize it's really hard to get that payoff, which was like the hard part of everything.
It sounds so good on paper. That's a tricky one. Like getting like play points back and putting out a taunt sounds really good, but hard to tell.
Exactly.
That's the point. All
right. Let's speaking of the dragon deck, let's pop this down here for you.
All right. Amulet, Dragon Song Flute, costs 1. When this card is discarded, put a Hellframe Dragon token into your EX area, and that is...
It's a 2-cost follower. Really quick, the token is a 2-cost follower that has 4/3, and it has Rush. So it can attack followers immediately.
Okay, and you have to pay 3 to summon it, so it's a 4/3 Rush. Draw a card.
Yeah, so how this works is you play this for 1 onto the board, and then the fanfare triggers, and then you could optionally pay 3 more to immediately get a Hellflame Dragon token onto the board, and you draw a card. So you can play this essentially for 4 to get the token and a draw.
Or you can let it chill, right? Or you can... Oh, okay, hold on. Really can't be activated. And then it costs 2 to pull out of the EX area later.
Yes.
If you don't summon it? Okay. Cool. All right, so That's a lot of different things you can do with one card. And this card sits here and can be used again. And your extra copies can be discarded, as well as other cards that can be discarded to turn into more of these things. I know Dragon like wants to play ramp early. It's like Druid, right? Like it wants to like ramp up. So I know that early drops might be hotly contested, but I don't know. This seems pretty modular. I'm gonna go with modular is good. I know I keep saying cards are good, but like this seems pretty good to me. It's a lot of modularity. So I guess we'll go with the Weiss Schwarz thing. Modular cards are good cards. There's a lot of things that this card can do.
All right. Well, you are correct. Modular is always pretty strong. Having options on a card is good. So a little context for this card, it's this is a card that's like the engine for an entire archetype. So it sees play for like almost ever.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty silly because one of the cool things about this card is that later in the game, the activated ability where you can tap it and discard a card to just generate a Hellflame Dragon onto your EX area, what happens is it makes all your dead draws into good draws now. So you get to pitch a bad card that doesn't do anything in your matchup, and it becomes a follower that does something, and then the follower that it generates has rush, so you can clear things out of the way for your other followers to get through. That's like the really great part about this card. And then obviously the secondary effect, which is if you discard this card, you automatically get a token immediately. So like you play multiple copies of this card, you can discard a copy of Dragonsong Flute to generate 2 tokens immediately off of one card. So yeah, it is a very strong staple.
Seems pretty wild.
All right. Let's hop over back to Sword here. I'll send over these here. This is has an Evo with it as well.
Right, let me pull these both up. Avent Blader, 4 cost, evolve this followers, 4/4. On evolve, search your deck for up to 2 officer followers, reveal them, add them to your hand. The 5/5. Depends how good the officer followers is, but this is a raw +1. Which I don't know how common that is in this game. But a selective +1 seems pretty good. But it doesn't do anything unless you Evo. So it's one of these. I know these are even in set 1, like these were a thing. Man, selective +1. It's gotta be good. It's gotta be good. Lock in good.
Lock it in good here.
Yeah, I'm locking in good. Selective +1. Selective search +1.
Okay. Well, Carman, unfortunately, you are correct.
Okay. So, I was like, what? What do you mean? How far has the game gone so far? It hasn't been out that long.
So during this meta, this was a really powerful search tool for Sword, and you saw immediately, like, this card does nothing unless you Evo it. So a lot of decks did only play like a 1/1 line. Sometimes they would be greedy and play a 2/1 line, so they don't have to search this card out to search more cards out later. The strength of it wasn't necessarily that it got you like any specific card off of this, because officer cards for the most part during this time, the only really strong one, which I think maybe you remember, is was it a Novice Trooper, which was a 3-drop 3/3 that has Storm. That's like one of the best cards you can get off of this card. And luckily during this time, this deck played this other card that made it so those Novice Trooper cards were really powerful to have in your hand, because it would threaten lethal a lot of the times. So that's why this card was played a lot. And obviously the selective +1 is kind of okay, though there's not too many great followers. But the fact that you get to refill your hand like infinitely in a Swordcraft deck, which is like almost all follower base, just feels really strong during this time. This card, though, does kind of drop off later on. It comes back and forth a little bit depending how slow Sword wants to play. But during set 2, this was like a staple. It had to be in every Sword deck, period. If you weren't playing it, I don't know what your Sword deck was doing.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's hop over back into Forest here. I have this interesting one here. It generates this card as well, which I'll send to you.
Okay. Let me look at this here. Okay, so this is a 4/3 rush. Vanford put a Thorn Burst token into your EX area. And then that costs 2, and it's a spell. Select an enemy leader or enemy follower on the field, deal 3 damage to it, draw a card. Okay. So overall, that'd be 6. And you play it, and you can just pay 2 at any time. So any leader follower, deal 3, draw a card. The fact that you can bank it, it at least does rush, it at least lets you keep up on the board. Right? It's still doing something, even if you don't use the Thorn Burst at the time. And then it does draw a card. Huh. Man, we've just had a bunch of good cards in a row. It makes me think that this is a trick. Maybe this is bad. But
Maybe
that's
all the cards are good. You never know.
Yeah, maybe all the cards are good. It does give you options. Yeah, I'll go with good again. It seems like it at least does something on the board when you play it. It lets you, run into something, keep up on the board so you're not getting super blown out. But then it gives you that option later of either using it for clear or using it to seal a game while cantripping, dig you deeper into the deck. Yeah, seems okay. Seems pretty decent.
All right, lock it in good then, I guess.
Yeah, we'll lock in good then.
All right. Well, you're right. You're on the money. It interacts with the board immediately, which is really important. And then the token it generates, the Thorn Burst, is actually really powerful. A lot of the times, like you said, you can kind of like add extra reach, or if you need to, it'll just cantrip into something else later on. Or you can remove something with it immediately on the board for 6 the same turn you play Rose Deer. Rose Deer is a very powerful card. It still sees play now. Like it comes and goes depending on like what the deck archetype wants to be doing. But Rose Deer is just a solid card all around, and it just keeps seeing play over and over again. So yep, you're on the money for that one. All right, we're gonna drop everyone's favorite waifu here for you.
Oh, Daria. Okay. 6, 5, 5. Fanfare, discard your hand. Put the top card of your deck in your EX area. Repeat this until your EX area is full. While this card is on your field, include both spells and what is this? What craft is this again? I'm sorry.
Runecraft.
Runecraft followers in your cemetery while counting your spell chain. Okay. What is spell chain?
So
sorry.
Go ahead. You're fine to ask all these questions. So spell chain is it's one of the archetypes of rune. Basically, cards will get extra effects based on the count of spell chain in your cemetery. So normally decks will play a lot of spells to generate as many spells into the cemetery as soon as possible. So like other cards, like for example D Shift, if you have if like you, for example, that card is like if you banish 10 spells from your grave, it subtracts cost to the card, so you're able to play it. Or there's like cards like Mithril Golem that come into play, and it'll deal like 5 damage to the board and 5 damage to the face if you have some. I think it's like 10 spell chain or something in your grave at the time, or maybe it's higher, maybe it's 15 or something. But generally that's it. You get bonus effects based on the spell chain count.
Okay. All right. Well, that changes things. So you discard your whole hand, and then you top deck everything into your EX area. How many cards can your EX area hold?
5.
5. Okay, so your quote unquote hand size will go up to 5 after playing this, plus the one that you draw for the next turn. And then both spells and followers will count towards your spell chain. Okay, so provided you could play a bunch of cheap spells and cheap followers that you play early, and then you drop this on 6 with a low hand, you get like a 5+1 hand afterwards. And I assume the Evo just makes it bigger. Like or does it have an effect?
It has other effects as well. It has two
Oh, okay,
other
here it
effects.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. On evolve, select the follower in your EX area for the rest of this turn. It costs 5 less to play. Select a spell. Man, this card does so much. It makes me think that like there's like a whole deck that you build around this. That's like you fire off a bunch of cheap spells, but then there's a couple heavy spells that are like super game enders that you play off this, or like a follower. But like it has to be like a whole thing where like you slam this down and go after it. But how good is it? How good is doing that? I don't have a lot of context, but that play pattern seems good to me. There have been cards like this in Hearthstone that have been good, where like you like ditch your hand to get like some sort of hand like resource, or like, you know, a new hand or something like that. And then give you some sort of benefits. Good again, provided there's like stuff that supports this playstyle. That's just the big question.
All right, we're locking in good.
Yeah, we'll go good again.
All right. Unfortunately, everyone's favorite waifu was trashed during this meta. You're right on like all the counts on how you valued the card for sure. It's a very powerful card if you can build kind of around it or have something that goes with it, and you're kind of on the money too. Where Spell Chain as a deck generally plays either cheap spells that interact with the board and they play more of a control plan, while also they have effects on followers, for example, and also other spells that will just like force you to discard cards from your hand for effects, or discard cards from your deck for an effect, so you can fill up and hopefully hit whatever spell chain you're looking to get. But actually right now, Daria is actually seeing play now, because there's actually an archetype that really wants this card. It basically a combo deck where you OTK with Daria, essentially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
it's a really cool deck. A lot of people have been picking up who've been enjoying Rune. There's a boss monster now called Chimera that if you have Spell Chain 30, when it comes into play, you do 30 damage to your opponent. So it just ends the game.
Oh, that's hype. That's so sick.
Yeah, so like
really
the,
cool.
the entire deck's game plan is like mill your entire deck, discard all your hand, play Daria, get Chimera into the EX zone, then play Chimera from the EX zone the same turn, and just end the game.
Just end it.
Yeah, because the Evo is very powerful too, because like you get to cheat cards out more, because you essentially get 10 extra play points, because you get a cast a spell that costs up to 5, right, and a follower loses 5, so you get extra I guess cheat value for play points that way. You get to cheat out things that you normally couldn't on the turn you play this card. Unfortunately, this card, as much as people were like trying to figure something out during the time, it wasn't very powerful. It was like played in like Dirt Rune or something a little bit as like a random one of, because it's just like you said, kind of refills your hand essentially. Yeah. All right. Let us go with this. This was one of the poster childs of the second set.
I remember. I remember seeing this in the ads and stuff. Okay. Dark Angel Olivia. Fanfare. Choose up to 2 of the following. Gain 1 Evo point. Give your leader +3. Draw a card. Each opponent discards a card. 2 of these things seem really good. The fact that you have the option to get like I don't know how good heal 3 is. It seems like okay. The like hand disruption is like good if someone's going real fast, like real low on hand. Ripping whatever little thing they have left could be pretty good. I don't know. That's a lot of options again. That's a lot of modularity. It does cost 5. In the right kind of deck, specifically like a control deck, gaining an Evo point back seems good, even though this card costs 5, and then you get another bonus effect. You know what? We're just gonna go with good again. I'm ready to be wrong, but I got to go with good again. That's too many lines of text. That's 4 lines of text, and you get 2 of them.
Are you sure? Like it comes on the board, you play as a 5, doesn't interact with anything. You know,
That is true, but gaining an Evo point back from what little I know about the game, it's like, and seeing these other cards so far, gaining an Evo point back because I know you have a static amount depending on whether you go first or second, right?
Yeah, so second gets 3, and then first gets 0, actually. So
getting an Evo point sounds pretty fucking good. So we're gonna go with that. We're gonna go with good.
all right. Well, Dark Angel Olivia was unfortunately very good. You're right. Like getting an Evo point is pretty big. Certain decks during the time would value this card a lot. For example, Sword really liked it because it's boss monster. If you go first and play this card, you get an Evo point, so your boss monster can Evo 1 turn earlier. Because a lot of times,
yeah. Okay.
A lot of times, Sword gets more advantage going second actually because they use a lot of Evos.
I remember that from the beginning. I
Yep.
remember being able to hit the what was the one crazy card? I remember it was like a ton of stats for like nothing when you evolved it.
Oh, are you thinking Otohime when it gets all the guards out, or
there was Otohime? There was also, it was a really early drop. Was it like a 3-drop or like a 4-drop? It was like a
Floral Fencer. One that makes the 2 tokens.
Fencer,
yes,
Fencer,
yes.
That card was wild.
That card still sees play to this day. So.
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
That card is very good. But yeah, so Dark Angel Olivia was a really solid card during the time. Dragon played it a lot. Because you got to ramp and then play this and essentially like fake ramp again, along with like if you want, you just make your opponent -1 randomly by having them discard a card, or you can draw a card if needed. It was played in a lot of those decks mostly. It saw some play in other decks occasionally, like for example in Haven, it saw some play, but it wasn't necessarily like a staple that needs to be played. And then once again, like you said, modular is good, so. Every line on this card is good. So any combination of 2 effects you pick is just going to be plus for you. So, all right, let's drop this bad boy in here.
All right, so up here it's an amulet. 3 Haven. Once per turn, when your leader gains health, give each follower on your field +1/+1. This is either like the best card or the worst card. This is exactly the kind of card you want to throw at people in these things, huh? You know what? I'm gonna go. The ceiling's so high, but I'm gonna go with bad. Actually,
bad. Well, why do you think that?
Okay, it's an amulet which you have to play down early. If you play it down on 3, it takes your whole turn against decks that are faster. You would have to have a lot of cards that you would play immediately after this that have a lot of life gain, and where this is like in set 2, the card pool isn't that wide yet. A lot of this is based off like Hearthstone thinking with how fast that game goes. I'm gonna say bad. I'm gonna say bad, and based on what I said, I don't think it's good enough.
All right, so bad. We're locking in bad here.
Yeah, we're locking in bad.
All right, Elenius' Prayer was absolutely broken in digital.
Oh, in digital. Okay.
It was hard nerfed in physical because they learned their lesson from digital. In digital, this activated as many times as you want on a turn instead of once per turn.
Okay.
So in digital, you could just spam a bunch of heals and immediately have like a bunch of 10/10s on the board. Physical,
yeah, that'd be a little crazy.
In the physical card game in Evolve, they obviously nerfed it. The card saw some play in like a very niche deck archetype for Haven that involved healing and creating these obnoxiously big boards over time to like basically slowly run your opponent out, and then suddenly you have a bunch of like 7/7s that can't really be answered very well. So it's all play in that deck. But unfortunately, it was just like too slow, and we had like things like Dragon running around with like Genesis Dragon that's like, yeah, I storm your face for 10, good game, and things like that, which was didn't give Haven enough time to really get to where it wants to be able to make this card really broken. They even printed a card during this time to help support this archetype that let you play, like when you play the follower, you get to play this card for free from your hand, and even with that support, it was not good enough to like see like widespread like play in the Haven decks. And there was a different strategy at the time for Haven that people enjoyed a lot more, and they felt that was just like a stronger game plan. So yeah. All right, let's see. We have our good boy here, Albert. Let me send these over to you.
All right. Open these up. Okay, so 4, 3, 5. Evolve this follower. Storm. Okay. And then the evolved form, still a 3/5 storm on evolve. For the rest of this turn, this follower doesn't take combat damage. And then strike is whenever something hits, right?
So
Like,
strike
hits
is
anything?
whenever it attacks, and it, in this case, it attacks anything, it'll trigger the effect. And strike happens before like the damage step, essentially.
Okay, refresh this follower. So I assume that means he can attack again.
Yeah, he'll go from rested to standing, essentially.
Okay. Hold on. This is 4 mana. So
Yeah.
you play this on turn 4. 4 play points. Storm. And then on evolve, he can attack multiple. He can attack twice for 3. And then this costs 3 Evo point, or no, an Evo point or 3 play points.
No. It
right?
costs 3 play points. So an Evo point only takes away 1 cost of the thing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So the earliest you could do this is turn 6.
Yeah, if you have Evo point, yes.
Okay. Turn 6, attack twice, but it's storm. 6 damage to face on turn 6 as sword. That sounds like it can end a game, but is it better at ending the game than any of the other things that exist? I could see this as like a one-up in sword. Like to finish games as a game ender, as just 6 damage on a hand. I know that there are other things that do damage on a hand. Even like neutral cards that do damage on a hand, but the fact that this can also like mop up board, it like has health. I think that's how they want you to use it, but Sword would like to use it to kill something. You know what, I'm gonna go with good as like a game ender, but they probably didn't play a lot of this, I would think, just because of the cost. Maybe, I don't know, but we'll go with good. I'll lock in good.
All right, lock it in good here. Well, you're absolutely correct. You're actually like completely on the money on everything. This card was used to end games. You only played it as basically a 1/1 line, so you have 1 Evo and 1 of this. Sometimes you'd play it as 2/1 line, if you had like the space for it. But essentially, this card just ended games or threatened it at any point in the game, because not only you don't know now because you don't have the context, but yes, it can do 6 damage out of hand, but there was a way to make it do 12 damage out of hand.
Oh god,
yeah, which was how sword like always threatened lethal on your opponent and made it awkward for them to play, because they'd have to play around this other card called Leonidas, so that this card wouldn't become swing for 12. Essentially.
Oh, god.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it kind of, even now the card sees like sometimes it sees play if someone really wants to play this card. It's kind of fallen out of like flavor basically because there's other faster things happening now as like the meta develops and every new set, power creep everywhere. But even now it still sees sometimes play, and like during this time it was like a requirement in every sword deck to be playing this card. It was just that powerful at ending games, or like threatening to end games at least. All right, so I think
seems crazy.
Yeah, we're coming up here on like I think the last 3 cards or so. So we'll drop this next one here from Rune.
All right, Evo 1. Let me pull these both up. Okay, so we got 2 play points. Runecraft, evolve, and then fanfare, draw, ditch. And then I know we looked at Daria earlier. And then on evolve, draw, ditch. Okay, it's a 3/2. This seems like a card purpose printed to go with the Daria. It builds that keyword that I immediately can't remember. Spell chain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Its stats kind of suck. But like that's not why you play it. This is like a role player card for that deck. But like otherwise, digging into your deck, I'm thinking about like hand filter, but like hand filter, like we think of it in Weiss, is like not a
real.
thing in the
Yeah.
game. It's just a neg, and like it's more real in this deck because you're trying to build the spell chain mechanic. But I'm gonna go with that. It's like that this is like bad, other than like the deck that you play it with Daria, and I'll lock that in.
Okay, so you think it's bad unless you're playing it with Daria.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Craig, my boy here, he's actually sees play. I think he even still sees play now occasionally. This card,
okay.
yeah. So like I said earlier, the whole spell chain mechanic is pretty powerful, or like that's what you want to build towards. So that still helps it. So like even if you're not playing Daria, this will kind of help you build towards it. Filter in this game is like pretty solid overall because you can hand fix. With how like mulligans work in this game, it's sometimes you just open poorly and you just need to fix your hand immediately. So Craig saw lots of play during this time. I think does he still see? I think he might see play occasionally. The biggest issue with this card, obviously, is that it takes up an Evo slot, which early on was not an issue for Rune, really, because they didn't have a lot of really strong Evo followers, except for like Merlin. And so this could easily like fit in there with no issue. But nowadays, like there are other cards that Rune wants to be putting in their Evo deck, and so now Evo slots have become kind of a premium for Rune in that case. But he still occasionally sees play. And then, as you're right on one thing, the stats suck. But what was nice about this card is because there's not a lot of really strong 2-drops for Rune. You're either casting a spell or passing turn a lot of the time. This Evoing, when you have Evo points into a 3/2, could usually answer most 2-drop. Like, I think every 2-drop in the game at that time. And when you Evo, so when you Evo, because it has 3 attack, it basically answers all 2-drops. And when you Evo, you have Rush, right? So you can swing in immediately. But otherwise, the stat line is actually horrible. It just like it hit that sweet spot at the time where a 3/2 on 2 was like good enough.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. All right, here we got another Evo lineup here for you to evaluate. This is a neutral craft follower.
Okay. We got Unicorn Dancer Unica. 2 mana, 2/2. All strike, give your leader 2 health. 3/3 strike, give your leader 2 health. Huh. If there was like nothing else you could play in a deck that wanted to take the game long, I could see you playing this early, provided you had a way to get your Evo points back. I know those are a very limited resource. Otherwise, it doesn't seem good enough. So I will lock in bang with that caveat if I can do that.
Wait, what was your caveat exactly?
I was like, if there's a deck that really wants to take the game long, where like this potential +2
whenever on strike.
Oh wait, it's only +2, and the Evo just lets it. It doesn't give you 4; it only gives 2.
Yeah.
Wait.
But it is strike, so you can every time you swing, you're gonna get 2.
Every time you swing. So if this stays on the board, okay. Yeah, we'll go with if there's a deck that wants to take the game long, it could be pretty good, but overall, probably not good enough. Your opponent probably just clears this immediately. And they're just like, nope, you're not allowed to do that. Yeah, we'll lock in bad with that caveat. Maybe
locking in bad unless like the deck really went to go long. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
All right. I'll allow it this one time. Unfortunately, though. You're wrong on this one. This card saw a lot of play, even in decks that didn't necessarily want to go long all the time. The reason it was so good was this was probably the best neutral follower in the set in a way, because some decks didn't have access to healing at all, and this was the only way you got it. And so And then the stat line on it, being a 3/3 on Evo, was good enough that it didn't die to the 1-drop removal, which was Angelic Snipe. And it had 3 attack, which means it could run into things and trade with most 2 and sometimes 3 drops, depending if it was like aggressively statted, which was good. And like I said, some decks just didn't have access to heal, and they really valued getting that extra heal back. Like, for example, Abyss liked this card a lot because a lot of their effects, they like to cut themselves essentially. And then this is how they got some of their health back early on in the game. And during this time too, there was an Abyss deck running around that was insanely aggressive. So this was one of the better 2-drops to like, if you weren't sure what to play, you could just play this because this would help in all the aggro matchups you would run into.
Okay.
Yeah, it would just slow them down just enough.
I didn't really consider how good being a neutral follower would be. And yeah, the thing with the stat line makes sense now that you say that.
Yeah, it's okay. This card like never sees play anymore. So it was like the one-hit wonder era for this card essentially.
You guys have real Uma now. You don't have to play this knockoff horse card.
Exactly. All right. Last card here also has an Evo. I'm going to toss it over. We're ending it on Forest.
All right. If I can hit the open in browser button so I can blow this up here. All right. 2/1/1 Evo. Okay. Combo 3. Summon a Crystallia Eve token. Okay. You're going to have to explain.
Okay. Yeah. So Forest has its own special effect. It's kind of an archetype in a sense called Combo. So essentially, when it says Combo 3, if this is the 3rd card or later you play that turn, you can activate the effect. So like if say you play 2 1-drops and then play this, you would get the token it generates. And the Crystallia Eve token, which I didn't send to you, but I'll have in the video, is a 4/4 follower.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have another question about Combo. Something I remember from the early, like the day one I was playing this. Does playing the little fairies from the EX area count?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yeah. Essentially, if you ever play a card from your hand or from the EX area to the field, it basically ups your count of combo. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I understand now. And on evolve, select the Crystallia Eve token on your field, give it +1/+1 and rush. Okay, so if you play this last, provided it was a 1-drop, that's 4. And then you summon that token, so you get 7/7 worth of stats. Oh no, it's even bigger than that. It's 8/8 worth of stats, and both these things have rush.
Oh no, it's on Evo. The most you would have would be 7/7 worth of stats because this is just
7/7.
Yeah, only the token gets +1/+1. Yeah.
This is a 2/2. So I was okay. So 7/7 worth of stats, rush, but it's combo. It sounds like a lot of value, provided you have the cards or tokens to play to kick your combo. That's a lot. From what I know about Floral Fencer, you know what? We're gonna go with good.
Good because Floral Fencer.
It seems like a lot of rush stats. It seems like a lot of stats that can immediately interact with the board, provided that you can kick the combo cheaply. So I'll just go with good. I will assume that this deck can kick combo cheaply and easily, and say that this is good.
Okay, locking in good here on Crystallia Tia. All right. Well, this being the last card and all, luckily for you, you're right. This card is really good.
Okay.
It still sees play to this day, and I think even in the future it'll always be seeing play because of whenever the Forest deck wants to combo off, this is just a solid card. It lets you basically build a wide board. Kind of like you said, you get that 7/7 worth of stats, but it's also kind of spread out, so you just don't dump it all into one follower and hopefully it lives or not. And then the fact it gets the rush too is pretty big on the token itself if you need to clear something out of the way. Card overall has just been super, super good. Still sees play today in one of the strongest decks right now, which is Elephant Forest. And like I said, you're kind of right. Floral Fencer is good, so why isn't this card good?
Yeah. It seems like a lot. It seems like a lot for a little. So
yeah, what's really nice about this too, unlike Floor Fencer, is that you don't have to use an Evo all the time. So
That's
you still
true.
get the random 4/4 token if you're just happen to playing things out in that way, and you can still build your board and do stuff. Right? All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's everything I have for you this one time. This is for set 2 Reign of Bahamut. If people like this content, maybe I'll invite you back and we'll move on into the next boosters into the future and see how you do. I didn't keep track this time. I need to do that next time if we're doing this. I'll count it up the total though and put it on the screen for people who end up watching this video. See how well you did. I think you did pretty good. I think you're mostly positive. I think you got most of them correct.
It seemed like it. It seemed like it. A lot of these cards are really good. These are like pretty wild. I know that with my background in Hearthstone, and I didn't play a lot of SVE Digital, if at all. Just kind of like watching Dean play a little bit on Discord and stuff. Like the cards seem like they do so much compared to playing Hearthstone. So like my knee jerk is always like, wow, this card does a lot of stuff. So it's hard to figure out if a card's actually not very good.
Yeah. But I mean, it's talking about Hearthstone though too. Like, you've played recently Hearthstone, right? Or a little bit?
Yeah. It's an abusive relationship, man. I install the game, I get to Legend, I go game's bad, uninstall, just over and over again.
Oh, I feel like nowadays in Hearthstone, from what I've seen, I like played like a handful of games recently, but I mostly just see random content online. Seems like Hearthstone's gotten kind of wild.
Yeah, a little bit. It's pretty crazy. Yeah. It's really funny. I never thought I'd see a card in Hearthstone that was like a Weiss finisher, but then I was playing Death Knight, and they have that 10 mana spell that like gets bigger and bigger and bigger for every like corpse you grind, which is like wild. It's just like I don't know. I read some of these cards, and it's like I can just see. Yep, it's like the game is just very different, very fast, and you can do a lot on one turn, which is really cool.
Yeah, Hearthstone's changed a lot since back in the classic days.
Yeah.
All right, guys. With that being said, thank you so much, Carman, for joining me and like agreeing to do this. This was a lot of fun. Do you want
happy to be here?
Yeah. Do you want to do any shout outs or anything? Shoot up your Weiss channel and stuff like that.
Yep. If you play Weiss Schwarz, Pittsburgh Weiss Schwarz, I run that alongside my locals and a couple other people who like to make content. We just kind of come together and make stuff. It's kind of spread outside just the Pittsburgh local group, but we do set reviews, deck tech, stuff like that. We've had a little bit of a lull on content because I was out of the country, but now I'm back, and we're trying to get some stuff together and review a lot of these upcoming sets. Bushiroad was not kind enough to drop some sets that people wanted, like Oshinoko, as well as there's some crazy new Ruby premium booster stuff to review. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, I'll make sure to include you guys in the what is it, more information section on there, so you can find them there and just easily click over there. Once again, thank you for joining me, Carman. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, it was a great time. This was really fun.
All right. Well, that being said, everyone, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to check out PGH Weiss Schwarz because they're probably, I would say, they're like the number one Weiss. I was gonna say VTubers for a second. No, I like all your content. I don't care what you say. They produce good content, and it's overall pretty good, high quality content and well informed content for sure. Well, we'll see you guys later, everyone.
See ya.